Hello and welcome. You're watching ABP Live. I'm Megha Prasad and this is Namaste World. We didn't start the fire, but we are right in the middle of it. Some fires are burning high into the sky, some are smoldering. And India seems to be a relatively peaceful island in the sea of turmoil. That is not to say that these fires are not affecting India. India itself, in the middle of shifting geopolitics, buffeted by the swiftly changing headwinds from the US, China and Russia, cannot be impervious to the heat in its neighborhood. On Tuesday, Nepal Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli and the President Ramchandra Paudel resigned after protest against the government's allegedly authoritarian and corrupt policies escalated to a point that Nepal had never seen before. The youth, or the Gen Z protesters as they are being called, broke through barricades and teams of riot police to storm the parliament compound and set fire to the building. They broke into and vandalized the private residences of Oli and several other ministers and then set fire to the houses. They were out on the streets clashing with the police, burning logs and anything else they could find. Their rage on Tuesday, when they were also joined by seniors, was compounded by the 24 deaths on Monday. Many of them said the police fired real bullets instead of rubber ones and fired straight into the heads, and even entered the civil hospital and shot those who were already injured. But their fury achieved what they wanted. They brought down a government in 1.5 days flat. Visuals showed Oli leaving from his office in a military helicopter. Soon after, the Nepal government's chief secretary issued an appeal. He said, and I quote, "As the resignation of the Honorable Prime Minister has been accepted, we sincerely urge all citizens to exercise restraint to prevent further loss of life and property," unquote. But neither this nor lifting of the ban on 26 unregistered social media platforms, which the youth had been using to vent their frustration and highlight the economic disparity between politicians and common people, has placated the protesters. What happens next in Nepal is unclear. Protesters seem to be divided on whether they want to return to monarchy or a new democratic government. But what is clear is that Nepal has become one of India's neighbours where mass anti-corruption protests by a discontented population have brought down an elected government. It was Sri Lanka in 2022 and Bangladesh in 2024 when the governments of Mahinda Rajapaksa and Sheikh Hasina were brought down. The only difference so far with Nepal is that the military has not taken over. But there are reports the army will step in till order is restored and new government installed. After watching the Sri Lanka and Bangladesh playbook unfold in an eerily similar fashion in Nepal, India's response has been measured. On Tuesday, India's Foreign Ministry released a statement saying New Delhi was closely monitoring the developments and asked Indians in Nepal to follow local authorities' guidelines. I quote them, "We are closely monitoring the developments in Nepal since yesterday and are deeply saddened by the loss of many young lives. Our thoughts and prayers are with the families of the deceased," unquote, the statement said. They also said, and I quote again, "We have also taken note that authorities have imposed a curfew in Kathmandu and several other cities of Nepal. Indian nationals in Nepal are advised to exercise caution," unquote, the statement added. India has not yet commented on the big resignations, preferring to watch how things pan out in an unstable situation. In fact, India has been seeing instability in almost all its neighbouring countries in the past few years, not just in Sri Lanka, Bangladesh and Nepal, but Maldives, Myanmar, Afghanistan and Pakistan have all been ravaged by political turmoil in recent years, and India has been in a cautious wait-and-watch mode. But through it all, India has been firm in its neighbourhood-first approach, maintaining an unpartisan stand on the political unrest. It has focused on a compassionate role, whether it has been sending humanitarian aid, developmental cooperation or border diplomacy. India has kept in mind, without taking sides, the sensitivities of the situation. In Bangladesh, India focused on ensuring the safety of its citizens by issuing travel advisories, engaging in diplomatic discussions with Bangladeshi military leaders to reduce tension, and offering asylum to Sheikh Hasina while adopting a policy of limited intervention. In Sri Lanka, India became the country's primary caregiver throughout the crisis, providing extensive financial, humanitarian and diplomatic assistance. By the end of 2022, India had committed approximately $4 billion in total support, which included currency assistance, credit lines and humanitarian aid. On Pakistan, India's approach was measured and cautious. It closely monitored the situation but opted not to intervene in Pakistan's internal political turmoil. With Myanmar, India's response was careful, striking a balance between diplomatic concerns and ongoing strategic engagement. New Delhi refrained from imposing official sanctions or making overt condemnations, instead advocating for restraint while safeguarding its long-term economic, security and regional interest. Now, with one more country plunged into political uncertainty, what are the lessons learned? And going forward, what will be India's strategy to deal with its unstable neighbours? India is likely to avoid unilateral engagement. Historically, India has aligned itself with certain governments, such as Sheikh Hasina's administration in Bangladesh, while neglecting the opposition. This limited strategy proved detrimental as political dynamics shifted. Consequently, India is expected to engage with all political factions to ensure equilibrium. As seen in the instance of Maldivian People's National Congress, the Bangladesh Nationalist Party and the Communist Party of Nepal under KP Sharma Oli, there exists certain anti-India sentiments with these political parties. It is essential for India to establish communication and engage with all stakeholders, including members of civil society, military generals and leaders of ethnic and tribal groups. India's decision not to assist Afghan officials following the Taliban takeover negatively impacted its image as a dependable partner. Nevertheless, by permitting Sheikh Hasina to remain in India, it demonstrated its loyalty. This may well be India's approach in future. Relations in South Asia should not be viewed solely through a religious lens. For instance, Nepal, which has a Hindu majority, has posed challenges as a partner, whereas Bhutan, which is predominantly Buddhist, and the Maldives, which is predominantly Muslim, have emerged as reliable allies. Moreover, India must enhance its position as the preeminent power in South Asia, free from the influences of global power struggles, such as those involving the US and China. India should focus on revitalizing regional frameworks like SAARC and BIMSTEC to foster greater cooperation. Because despite India's political horizon being clear, unlike the US and China, it does share some challenges with its neighbours. There is no denying that economic inequality and unemployment plague us all. Healthcare and education schemes are still not adequate for our large population. And we also cannot turn away from the fact that Western influences often get us sidetracked. Conflicts among major global powers such as US and China frequently eclipse regional collaboration, thereby undermining the unity and self-sufficiency of South Asia. And we also cannot turn away from the fact that Western influences often get us sidetracked. Conflicts among major global powers such as India and China frequently eclipse regional collaboration, thereby undermining the unity and self-sufficiency of South Asia. Therefore, while watching the neighborhood closely, India should also take into account the diplomatic lessons it has learned in the past while dealing with its neighbors, and use that knowledge to keep itself non-aligned in the current situation. Thanks for watching.